In this episode of Highlight Sundays, 2 PSAs, Instagram, and blatant copyright infringements. Hello and welcome back to Highlight Sundays. It's the 51st week of 2012. Congratulations for surviving the apocalypse, and here are your highlights. And we begin with our PSA from Gizmodo. Now, as you know, a lot of people unlawfully want your money. For the longest time now, people have actually installed credit card skimmers on ATMs. So basically, when you actually attempt to use the ATM, your information and credentials get scraped. And of course, people with malicious intent could use that at a later date to maybe draw out your money. This article, however, brings to light some newer techniques of actually getting your credit card information scraped. This article is in fact titled, "Credit Card Skimmers Aren't Just at ATMs Anymore." The article then goes on to mention how some skimmers have actually made fake point of sales terminals, and they apparently look very much like the real thing, and is even capable of actually printing a receipt. However, of course, when you actually swipe your card and you key in your PIN, these information all get scraped. This article doesn't say a lot more than that, so well, just watch out for yourself. I believe the article actually comes with a video link as well, so you can take a look at that to better understand how this thing works. As always, the link to the article is in the video description. Moving on to our second PSA. Now this has nothing to do with tech at all, but it's something quite important that I never knew, maybe you know, which is good for you. But I feel that this is a matter that should get more awareness than I think it already has, which is why I'm sharing this article with you. This article comes from a New York Times blog post, and it is entitled, "Grapefruit is a culprit in more drug reactions." The story is a pretty long one, but it boils down to the fact that grapefruit actually interacts in a pretty bad way with a lot of prescription drugs. Of course, grapefruit isn't the only fruit that has this effect. A small number of other citrus fruits may also cause the same kind of reactions. According to the article, up to 85 different drugs may have adverse reactions with grapefruits, and of this 85, 43 may actually prove life-threatening. So this definitely isn't a small issue by any stretch of the term, so you are advised to remain vigilant, make sure you look out and understand what kind of reactions whatever drugs you are taking may undergo. Once again, link in the video description. I do urge you to check this out, especially if, you're on some sort of a long-term medication. But we step away from the PSAs and we take a look at Instagram. Now, of course, the whole internet has been abuzz with what's been going on with Instagram. I suppose you will probably already have caught up with this news elsewhere, but in case you haven't, let me just sum it up in a nutshell. Now, before this week, what has happened is basically, first, Instagram has dropped support for Twitter altogether, and now what it's doing is it's actually updating its own terms of service and privacy policy in a slightly unfavorable way. In particular, one line really irks a lot of the internet, and basically what it boils down to is the fact that Instagram can actually take your pictures and use them for commercial purposes. By the way, I'd just like to point out here that use for commercial purposes does not necessarily entail just selling your photos. They could use it to advertise brands, it might be their own brand, and if I read it correctly, they may even be able to use it to endorse other products. So it's not so much of an issue of just selling your photos for money, but actually using it in advertising, as if you endorse the product. Of course, a giant hoo-ha has been raised about this, causing Instagram to retract its message. But before we actually go on to talk about what Instagram has done to sort of cover their butts, I suppose, let's first take a look at the true implications of the original message. This is an article from the New York Times, and it is entitled, "What Instagram's New Terms of Service Means to You." So mostly it's the same couple of points I just covered, but in far greater detail. And I guess, where it hurts the most is the fact that your pictures could be used in advertising without your consent. So moving forward in time a little, well, Instagram is kind of forced to respond to the huge, outcry over their original change in terms of service. Unfortunately, the way Instagram actually worded its apology kind of makes people feel even worse. So instead of coming clean and basically apologizing to the user base for planning things that could potentially use your pictures in a way you never intended to, what Instagram has said is that the wording of their original terms wasn't clear. As broken down by a number of critics, their wording was perfectly clear. It was their intent that was alright. So the next two articles I have for you, this is once again a bumper segment, comes first from GSMArena. So basically this article is entitled Instagram Responds to Outcry over the New Privacy Policy and Terms of Service. So this is basically just, coverage of what Instagram has actually put up. Whereas the next article I have for you is from a site called Asbury and Asbury, and it is entitled Instagram Didn't Get the Tone Wrong. So this article actually delves into trying to understand Instagram's knee-jerk response to this entire outcry. In particular, they have picked a number of holes in Instagram's updated statement. In fact, it seems that the tone of Instagram's second message leaves even more to be desired. This is a very interesting debate as to, the intentions of a company, and we can only wait and see. If you decide that you really do not agree to Instagram's new terms of service, you are left with no choice but to actually cancel your account with Instagram. I haven't gone so far as to do that yet, but I'll be keeping my eyes on the news and I will be keeping you updated. Our last article for today comes from GSMArena. It is entitled Gradiente Unveils Android-Powered iPhone in Brazil. I don't know about you, but seeing as that Apple has been kinda reacting strongly to even the smallest issues, I don't think naming a phone after their best-selling phone is a very good idea. But you can actually hop down to the video description and check out this article. It also has pictures of this phone, as well as some specifications. And of course, according to GSMArena, they say that this phone is extremely overpriced. My favorite part of the article is the last line, and it's none other than a tip for the guys at Gradiente from GSMArena, which is simply pack your bags and run. That basically wraps it up for this episode of Highlight Sundays. If you have any comments, queries or suggestions, or if you have anything to share for the next episode, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. If you like this episode, I would greatly appreciate every like, favorite and subscription you give me. But until next time, you're watching 0612 TV.